What if I told you your brain has a built-in cheat code and schools never bothered to teach it? Imagine walking around every single day with the power to absorb knowledge at lightning speed, but instead, you are stuck using the slow, outdated methods handed down by an education system designed centuries ago. It is like buying a Ferrari and driving it in first gear your whole life. The machine has horsepower waiting to roar, but you are crawling down the road like a grandma on a Sunday drive. Today, we are going to unlock those gears, and by the end, you will see that learning can be so fast it almost feels unfair, like you found a glitch in the system. For years, we have been told that mastery requires an endless grind, thousands of hours, years of suffering, and a monk-like discipline. The 10,000 hours rule became gospel. But here's the twist. It was oversimplified, misinterpreted, and turned into a productivity cult. Hard work matters, yes, but not all hard work is equal. Grinding mindlessly is not the same as targeted precision. Think about it. Most people study like they are trying to beat Dark Souls with a blindfold, swinging wildly, hoping something will stick, and respawning again and again in frustration. The truth is, your brain does not need a decade of punishment. What it really needs is a strategy designed around how it actually learns best. Here is where the magic begins. Your brain is not a filing cabinet. It is more like a high-speed compression software. Instead of storing every tiny detail separately, it groups information into meaningful chunks. It is like zipping files on your computer. Suddenly, you can carry way more without crashing the system. Take chess masters as an example. They are not remembering the position of every single piece on the board. Instead, they recognize patterns, entire chunks of strategy that they can recall instantly. What looks like superhuman memory is really just efficient packaging. And the best part? You can train your brain to chunk in any skill, languages, music, coding, even public speaking, once you know how to feed it the right patterns. Forgetting often feels like a failure, but in reality, it is your brain's way of begging you to reinforce what actually matters. Think of it less as a flaw and more as a built-in alarm system. When something starts to fade, your mind is waving a flag that says, "Hey, remind me," before I throw this into the trash bin. Over a century ago, a psychologist named Hermann Ebbinghaus uncovered this in what became known as the forgetting curve. Picture him as the mad scientist villain of memory science, charting just how quickly the human brain loves to delete things. Within days, your recall plummets unless you revisit the material. But here is the hack. If you review at just the right intervals, your brain stops discarding and starts engraving. It is the closest thing to turning temporary memory into permanent storage. Your memory, to be brutally honest, is basically that friend who forgets your birthday until Facebook reminds them. The good news? You can trick it into remembering everything that matters with well-timed reminders. That is the genius of spaced repetition. You are not forcing your brain to grind harder. You are teaching it to work with its own rhythm. Once you use this method, it feels almost unfair, like you are hacking the brain's delete button before it gets pressed. Now let us talk about the dirty little secret behind elite performance. The best in the world, musicians, athletes, chess grandmasters, are not practicing more hours than everyone else. They are practicing differently. While most people repeat what they are already good at, elite performers zoom in on their weaknesses and attack them directly. It is uncomfortable, frustrating, and often feels like failure in the moment. But that is exactly the point. Growth hides in the places we least want to look. Think of deliberate practice like going to the gym and only training the muscles that hurt your ego the most. If your arms are weak, you do not waste hours flexing your calves. You load up the bar, grind through the burn, and slowly turn that weakness into a weapon. That is what deliberate practice does for any skill. It pushes you just beyond your comfort zone, not so far that you break, but far enough that your brain and body adapt. And the result is exponential growth that makes ordinary practice look like child's play. Here's where things start to feel downright criminal. Imagine taking chunking, spaced repetition, and deliberate practice, and stacking them together into one method. Alone, each is powerful. But combined, it is like discovering the secret recipe to a skill-learning potion. Instead of grinding for years, you are essentially hacking the operating system of your brain. Look at polyglots, the people who somehow manage to speak 5, 10, even 20 languages. They do not have magical DNA or an extra lobe in their brain. What they have is the stack. They chunk vocabulary into patterns. They use spaced repetition to make those words stick, and they apply deliberate practice by speaking and failing over and over until fluency feels natural. To outsiders, it looks like sorcery. But the truth is, it is just psychology applied with precision. Once you use this stack, it feels like you skipped the line. It is the learning equivalent of sneaking into VIP without the wristband. And suddenly you are sipping champagne while everyone else is still waiting at the entrance. You are not smarter than everyone else. You are just using the cheat codes they never knew existed. At this point, it should be clear that learning is not just an ability, it is a weapon. Every new skill you master is another cheat code unlocked, while most people are still mashing random buttons hoping something works. The faster you can learn, the more unfair the game of life starts to feel in your favor. Use this power wisely, because once you realize how fast and easy learning can be, you will never look at skills the same way again. And honestly, it feels almost suspicious, like you should lawyer up before someone accuses you of fraud. But you are not cheating. You are just finally driving your Ferrari in top gear, and the road ahead is wide open.